Welcome back to Chat Like a Native, the podcast where we kind of help you unlock those secrets to sounding more fluent, more natural in English.
Yeah.
Have you ever, noticed how native speakers just seem to have this certain, rhythm to their speech?
Yeah.
Well, today we're diving into that mysterious element.
Okay.
Stress, right?
Yeah.
It's more than just, pronouncing words correctly.
Right.
It's about, emphasizing the right parts of words
Yeah.
and of sentences
Yeah.
and mastering it.
Yes.
It can dramatically change how natural and confident your English sounds.
Yeah, it's true. You might already know that stress can change the meaning of a word. Think about the word present.
Okay.
If you emphasize the first syllable, present,
Present.
it's a noun, like a gift, right?
Yeah.
But if you stress the second syllable, present,
Present.
it becomes a verb, meaning to give something.
Right. And it's amazing how just shifting the emphasis can just totally change the meaning, but it goes beyond individual words.
It does, yes.
It's like there's this unspoken code in, how native speakers stress different words in a sentence.
Mm-hmm.
Almost like a secret language of emphasis.
Exactly. And cracking that code can really unlock your fluency. Think about it this way. When you listen to someone speaking your native language, you instinctively know which words are important just based on where they put the stress.
Oh, interesting.
Right.
Yeah.
It helps you understand the message, the emotions, even the speaker's attitude.
Oh, wow. It's almost like stress acts as a highlighter, kind of drawing your attention to the key parts of a sentence.
That's a great analogy. And when you're speaking English, using the right stress does the same thing for your listeners. It helps them follow your ideas, helps them understand your meaning more clearly.
So it's not just about sounding good, it's also about being understood.
Absolutely. Misplaced stress can lead to confusion and make your speech harder to follow. Imagine if you stressed all the words in a sentence equally.
Oh, okay.
It would sound robotic, monotonous.
Right, yeah. And probably a bit confusing too, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Think about it. If someone said to you, "I want a cup of coffee," you instinctively know that those are the important words, the ones that are carrying the most meaning.
And if they just droned on stressing every word equally,
Yeah.
it sounds so weird. I want a cup of coffee.
Exactly. It just wouldn't sound natural at all.
So how do we figure out this secret code of stress? It feels like a hidden skill that native speakers just instinctively know.
Well, one of the most effective ways to learn is simply by being a good listener. Really pay attention to how native speakers emphasize words in different situations, in movies, in podcasts, even everyday conversations.
So become an expert eavesdropper.
Yeah.
I can handle that. But is listening enough? Will that magically make me start stressing words correctly?
It's a great starting point. Because once you start to hear those patterns, you can begin to internalize them.
Okay.
But you also need to practice speaking.
Okay, that makes sense. But sometimes I get so nervous about speaking English perfectly that I just freeze up.
Yeah, I get it.
How can I practice stress without feeling, overwhelmed?
One technique that can help is called shadowing.
Okay.
It's basically mimicking a native speaker, trying to match their pronunciation, intonation, and of course, their stress patterns.
So find a favorite scene from a movie or TV show and just repeat it word for word, trying to sound exactly like the actor.
Exactly. It might feel a bit silly at first,
Okay.
but it's a really effective way to train your ear and your muscles to produce those natural sounds, including the right stress. And it can be fun, too.
I like the idea of having fun while learning. But speaking of fun, do you remember when we tried that tongue twister challenge a while back?
Oh, yes.
The one about the seashells by the seashore?
That's the one.
It was a total tongue twister, but it really highlighted how important stress is. If you don't emphasize the right syllables, it's almost impossible to say it correctly.
It's true. Tongue twisters, even though they're silly, can be a great way to practice those tricky stress patterns.
And it's a good reminder that, learning pronunciation doesn't have to be all serious drills and exercises. It can be playful and fun, too, right?
Absolutely. The more you enjoy the process, the more likely you are to stick with it.
Right.
But sometimes, even with practice, it's hard to know if I'm stressing the right words.
Yeah.
It's not always obvious, especially when you're focused on so many things at once while speaking.
Right. It's you're trying to remember the grammar, find the right words, A&D, make sure you're stressing everything correctly.
Yeah.
It can feel like a lot to juggle.
It is. And one thing that can help is to pay attention to the type of word you're saying.
Okay.
Different parts of speech, like Nouns and verbs often have predictable stress patterns.
Oh.
For example, two-syllable nouns are often stressed on the first syllable. Table, window.
Table, window.
While two-syllable verbs are often stressed on the second syllable. Decide, explain.
Decide, explain. Interesting. So understanding grammar can actually help with pronunciation.
Absolutely.
Wow. It's all connected.
Exactly. It's like having an extra clue to help you crack the code of stress.
So by listening to native speakers, shadowing their speech, practicing with tongue twisters, and paying attention to the types of words we're using, we can start to develop a more natural sense of stress.
Exactly. It's a combination of approaches that'll help you get there.
And don't forget, there are also some amazing tools available now that can give you personalized feedback on your pronunciation. There are apps and websites that can analyze your speech and pinpoint areas where you might need to adjust your stress.
Oh, for sure. Technology can be a real game changer when it comes to learning pronunciation. It's like having a personal coach in your pocket.
So we've got listening, shadowing, tongue twisters, grammar clues, and the technology to help us master stress. It sounds like a pretty comprehensive toolkit.
It is. And the best part is that these techniques can be easily integrated into your daily routine. You can practice while watching a movie, listening to a podcast, or even just chatting with friends online.
That's what I love about learning English. There are so many fun and engaging ways to improve, and mastering stress is definitely one of the keys to unlocking fluency and confidence.
Absolutely. It's a journey. But it's one worth taking, and with a little dedication and the right tools, you can absolutely crack the code of English stress and start chatting like a native.
So are you ready to delve a little deeper into some specific techniques and tips for mastering stress?
I'm ready when you are. Let's get specific and help our listeners take their stress skills to the next level.
That's what we're here for. But first, a quick break. We'll be right back with more tips and tricks on how to chat like a native.
You know, it's fascinating, how stress can just so subtly impact the way people perceive us.
Oh, absolutely. I've definitely noticed that. Even if I'm saying all the right words, if my stress is off, it can change the whole tone of what I'm trying to say.
Oh. It's true. Just like in music, the emphasis we place on certain words creates this rhythm, this melody that conveys meaning, beyond the literal words themselves.
So basically, stress is the secret sauce that makes our English sound more natural, more expressive.
Exactly. And one of the coolest things about mastering stress is that it not only improves your speaking, but it also helps you understand native speakers better.
Wait, really? Tell me more about that.
Think about it. When you listen to someone speaking with clear and natural stress patterns, your brain can easily pick out the important words and follow the flow of their ideas.
Yeah.
It's like a mental roadmap guiding you through the conversation.
That makes so much sense. It's like those times when you hear someone speaking English and you understand every single word, but you still can't quite grasp the overall meaning.
Precisely. It could be that the stress patterns are throwing you off. Without those subtle cues, your brain has to work harder to decipher the message.
So mastering stress is unlocking a secret code that helps us both speak and understand English more fluently.
You got it. It's a win-win situation.
So let's talk more about those specific techniques we can use to improve our stress. We talked about shadowing earlier, but are there any other tricks we can use?
Well, one thing I always recommend is to record yourself speaking.
Oh, no. That sounds terrifying. I hate hearing my own voice.
I know it can be a bit daunting, but trust me, it's incredibly helpful.
Okay.
You might be surprised by what you hear. Sometimes we think we're stressing words correctly, but when we actually listen back to ourselves, we realize that our stress patterns are off.
Okay. I'm willing to give it a try. But what should I listen for specifically?
Pay attention to which syllables you're emphasizing and compare them to how a native speaker would say the same words or sentences. You can even record yourself shadowing a native speaker and then compare the two recordings.
That's a great idea. It's like having a personal pronunciation coach right there on my phone.
Exactly. And once you've identified areas where your stress needs some work, you can focus on those specific sounds and practice them until they become more natural.
So it's all about listening, observing, and practicing until it clicks.
You got it. And speaking of clicking, remember those pronunciation apps we talked about earlier?
Yes.
They can be incredibly helpful for targeting specific sounds and getting feedback on your stress patterns.
Right. It's like having a pronunciation lab right in your pocket.
Exactly. Some apps even have interactive games and exercises that make practicing pronunciation fun and engaging.
Okay, I'm sold. I'm going to download one right now. But beyond apps and recording ourselves, are there any other things we can do to improve our stress on like a daily basis?
Absolutely. One thing I always encourage learners to do is to pay attention to the stress patterns of different parts of speech.
You mean like nouns, verbs, and adjectives?
Exactly. Different parts of speech often have predictable stress patterns. For example, many two-syllable nouns are stressed on the first syllable. Think about words like teacher, table, or window.
Okay, I see the pattern there. But what about verbs?
Two-syllable verbs often have the stress on the second syllable. Words like enjoy, decide, or explain.
So it's like having a cheat sheet for stress. If you know the part of speech, you can often make an educated guess about where the stress should fall.
Precisely. Of course, there are always exceptions to the rule, but it's a helpful guideline to keep in mind.
This is so cool. I never realized how much grammar could actually help with pronunciation.
It's all connected. Understanding the structure of the language can give you, valuable insights into how it's spoken.
Okay, I'm feeling inspired to go back and brush up on my grammar rules now.
No.
But speaking of inspiration, I think sometimes we English learners can get so caught up in like the technical aspects of pronunciation that we forget to actually, enjoy the process.
You're absolutely right. Learning a language should be a fun and rewarding experience.
So what are some ways we can make practicing stress more enjoyable?
Well, music is a fantastic tool. Listening to English songs and paying attention to how singers stress words and phrases can be a really fun way to internalize those natural stress patterns.
And you don't even realize you're learning.
Exactly. Your brain is absorbing those patterns subconsciously as you enjoy the music.
I love that idea. Are there any other fun ways to practice?
Absolutely. How about trying some tongue twisters?
Tongue twisters. But we already talked about those.
Yes, but they're so much fun and so helpful that they deserve a second mention. Plus, there are tons of different tongue twisters out there that target specific sounds and stress patterns.
You're right. Tongue twisters never get old. And they're a great way to challenge yourself and have a laugh at the same time.
Exactly. Learning pronunciation doesn't have to be all serious and studious. It can be playful and lighthearted, too.
So we've got music, tongue twisters, and even pronunciation apps to make practicing stress more enjoyable. It sounds like we have a whole arsenal of fun tools at our disposal.
We do. And the more you experiment and find what works best for you, the more you'll enjoy the journey of mastering English stress.
Okay. I'm feeling energized and ready to put all of these tips into action. But before we move on, I'm curious, what are some of the most common mistakes you see English learners making when it comes to stress?
That's a great question. One of the most common pitfalls is overstressing every single word.
Oh, I can see how that could happen. You're so focused on getting the stress right that you end up emphasizing everything.
Exactly. But remember, natural speech has a rhythm to it. It's not like a robot speaking in monotone.
Yeah.
We need those unstressed words to create the flow and make the stressed words stand out.
So it's about finding that balance, like a dance between the stressed and unstressed syllables.
Perfectly put. It's about finding the music of the language. And another common mistake is forgetting about intonation, which is, the rise and fall of your voice as you speak.
Oh, right. Intonation is like the melody of a sentence. You can stress the right words, but if your intonation is flat, it still won't sound natural.
Exactly. Think about it like this. Stress is about emphasizing individual words or syllables, while intonation is about the overall tone and melody of your speech.
Okay.
They work together to create natural-sounding English.
Okay. So we need to pay attention to both stress and intonation if we want to sound truly fluent. Got it.
You got it. And remember, it's a journey. Don't get discouraged if you don't master it overnight. Just keep practicing, keep listening, and keep experimenting with your voice.
Absolutely. Practice, patience, and a sense of humor. Those are our key ingredients for success.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And, sometimes it helps to think of English pronunciation like learning a musical instrument.
Oh, I like that analogy. Tell me more.
Well, just like a musician practices scales and exercises to develop their technique, English learners can use specific drills and techniques to train their tongue, their ears, to recognize and produce the right sounds, the right stress patterns.
So it's about building those muscle memories, just like a musician would build finger strength and dexterity.
Exactly. And the more you practice, the more natural, the more effortless those sounds, those stress patterns will become.
It's like anything else in life. The more you put in, the more you get out.
Absolutely. And the rewards of mastering English stress are immense, both in terms of fluency and confidence.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground today, and I'm feeling incredibly inspired to keep working on my stress patterns.
That's great to hear. Just remember to have fun with it and don't be afraid to experiment and make mistakes.
Absolutely. It's all part of the journey of mastering this beautiful and complex language. And who knows, maybe one day we'll be giving tongue twister master classes together.
Now, that's an idea. I'm always up for a challenge. And our listeners can join us too. We can all become stress superstars together.
I love it. So, are you ready to wrap up this deep dive into the world of stress?
I think we've covered a lot of great information, but before we go, let's leave our listeners with, a few final words of encouragement and inspiration.
Sounds perfect. Let's empower our fellow English learners to embrace the challenge of stress and unleash their inner fluency. All right, so we've talked about the importance of stress. We explored some fun and effective techniques, and we even uncovered some common mistakes to avoid.
Right.
But before we wrap up this deep dive, I want to remind our listeners that mastering stress, well, it's a journey, not a destination.
That's so true. It's easy to get caught up in the pursuit of perfection, but the real beauty of language learning, it lies in the process of, discovery and growth.
Exactly. It's about embracing those moments of awkwardness and imperfection and using them as stepping stones to fluency.
And remember, everyone's journey is unique. Don't compare yourself to others. And don't be afraid to experiment and find what works best for you.
I love that. It's all about finding your own rhythm.
Yeah.
And your own voice in English.
Absolutely. And one of the most important things to remember is that stress is just one piece of the pronunciation puzzle.
Right. We also need to pay attention to things like intonation, rhythm, and connected speech.
It's all interconnected. Think of it like this. Stress is like the foundation of a house.
Okay.
It provides structure and support, but you also need the walls, the roof, and all the other elements to create a complete and functional home.
That's a great analogy. So while stress is crucial, we need to keep in mind that it's part of a larger system of pronunciation.
Exactly. And as you continue your English learning journey, you'll naturally start to develop a more holistic understanding of how all these elements work together.
And that's when the real magic happens. When you can effortlessly weave together stress, intonation, rhythm, and all the other nuances of pronunciation to create truly natural and expressive English.
It's a beautiful thing to witness, and it's something that every English learner is capable of achieving with dedication and practice.
So to all of our listeners out there who are on this journey with us, keep exploring, keep experimenting, and keep pushing yourself outside of your comfort zone.
And remember, we're here to support you every step of the way, so don't hesitate to reach out to us with your questions, your triumphs, even your pronunciation struggles.
We're a community of learners here at Chat Like a Native, and we're all in this together. So let's keep chatting, keep learning, and keep striving to unlock the secrets of fluent and confident English.
Well said. Until next time, happy chatting, everyone.